Very good. Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for OCTO Explained, Why It Matters, and How to Get More Involved. My name is Patricia. I'm a sales manager at Ventrata, and it's my pleasure to be moderating today's discussion. Just a couple of pieces of housekeeping before we jump in. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send the video to all registered users shortly after the conclusion of the session. Secondly, we want to hear from you. So please post your questions in the comments wherever you're watching, be that LinkedIn, YouTube, or StreamYard, and we will address them either during the conversation or at the Q&A session to shortly follow. Now, why are we here? If you've ever built or managed an integration in this industry, you know that it is no easy feat. Every reseller, every platform, and every API has a slightly different language that they speak, and integrations can take weeks or even months. You are constantly having to reinvent the wheel and figure things out, which is exactly the problem that OCTO was created to solve. By defining a shared standard for how the tours operators and attraction industry communicates, exchanges data, product content, availability, pricing, and bookings, OCTO has made connectivity faster, simpler, and smarter. Today, we will dive into how OCTO began, how it operates today, what projects are currently underway, and most importantly, why it's as valuable to suppliers and operators as it is to the tech providers. Now, let's meet our panel. Robin, Christian, Dominic, if you don't mind introducing yourselves and sharing a little bit of your connection with
OCTO. I think you're muted, Robin.
You're muted, Robin.
Sorry. I think, am I good now?
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Robin Harnish. I'm the Executive Director of OCTO. Really excited to be here today. And for me, my entire career was in travel. I'd say my most relevant time that kind of connects me to OCTO and its mission is several years that I worked at Viator. And I, amongst other things, ran connectivity. And I saw just how difficult it is, even for a big company that has a lot of resources, the big list of everybody, the backlog of everybody that we want to connect to, and all of the development that's required. It's a lot and it's cumbersome. And I retired at the end of 2024 and really got a great opportunity earlier this year to come back. So on a part-time basis, I'm really helping push this forward. It's something that I really believe is needed in our part of the industry, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
I'll jump in, Dominic. So I'm Christian, president of the board, OCTO, also with Magpie and Skyline Sightseeing. So I've had different perspectives on the industry. One thing that struck me was during COVID, when we all remember those good times, when things started to come back and 500 resellers all created different standards for face masks and 6 feet and 2 meters and sanitizing hands, all this stuff. And all of a sudden, every product in the world had 20 checklists to go through for every single reseller. And everyone independently sat there and decided this is their special list of checklist items. And it just was chaos for a couple of years. But that's what we've done as an industry for the last 20, 30, 40 years. Every single reseller, supplier sat there and done everything a special way. And then when we go out to the world and try and talk to each other, we can't. So we've all come together, created OCTO for the industry as a nonprofit. And this is where we are today. I'm sure we'll get into the details in a minute.
Cool, and I'll go last. Yeah, my name is Dominic. I guess folks watching this, probably a lot of them are Ventrata clients, Ventrata partners. They know who I am, what I do. But yeah, if this is the first time you're meeting me, yeah, I'm head of partnerships here at Ventrata. So I'm responsible for our partnerships integrations with the OTAs, with other ticketing systems, which, as probably many of you know, already use OCTO standards as a part of those integrations. Yeah, I've been with Ventrata for something about 3 years now, but actually I've been on the OTA side before at Get You Guides. I was actually very kind of big fan of what Ventrata was doing in the OCTO project. That was one of the big reasons for me why I wanted to move and join the team. At the time was the exciting things that OCTO was doing and kind of Ventrata participation in the project. And here I am. So yeah, looking forward to this discussion today and chatting about what OCTO is and how to get involved.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate the insight. Christian, if I can start with you, I know that you were a part of OCTO at the beginning, or at least really, really close to it. Would you be able to walk us back a little bit and tell us how it got started? I'm curious about how it was to get a lot of competitors to work together on a project, and just kind of give us a little bit of background of how things got going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there have been discussions for years. Some will say decades. My first recollection was that it was a ITB in Berlin in maybe 2016 in a pub where we gathered a bunch of people and had a first discussion. Then Arrival started doing sort of workshops to bring people together, maybe 2017, 18. Then Expedia came along and decided to host. So Expedia grabbed a group of, I think it was 15-ish, I don't know if you know the number, Dominic, but 15 companies, resellers, ResTechs, and others. And they hosted a series of meetings in Washington, in Bellevue, Washington. And that was the initial OCTO, which was meant to launch at Arrival 2020 in Berlin. I guess it kind of did launch, but then everything stopped. Went quiet for a year or two during COVID, and then a few people sort of got it moving again and got the industry back together. So that was in probably 2022. We started to bring the group back together and move it forwards again. So OCTO was then formed as an official non-profit. And the last couple of years, we released OCTO Core soon after that. Was that 18 months ago, Dominic? We released the core officially, finally approved.
I believe so. Yeah. Around that time.
And then, here we are today. So we're expanding group. We have 9 members on the board. We have a spec committee of varying numbers. We have a member advisory group. Robin will talk about the numbers of the membership, etc. So it's really been growing, getting traction. Implementations, importantly enough, which I'm sure we'll discuss. But I think it's been really great the last few years since the arising after COVID.
I mean, that's great. I think we can all speak to the benefit of collaborating, especially after challenging times. So as you mentioned, Robin, we'll be talking. I would love to ask you a little bit about the board today. I know that you're leading that right now. How are things currently operating? Roughly how many members are currently involved, and how have you seen things change from the early days to now?
Yeah, great. Well, so as Christian said, we're a nonprofit. It's a completely member-based and volunteer-based organization, other than myself. That's really kind of overseeing and just trying to make sure that everything stays on track and on time. Our membership fees really go towards all of the efforts and all of the work that we're doing. We are kind of at a break even at this point, but we really have ambitions to really continue to grow. We're at a point where we could use some more funds to improve documentation. And we've just implemented like a membership hub where we can do more there. So we're really excited about growing and being able to offer even more to our members. In terms of our structure, we have a board of directors. So we have 9 board members that are on a 2-year commitment. We actually have 4 board seats coming up in May of next year. So if you're looking to join a board or get involved, certainly it's a great opportunity. We also have our membership advisory board, which we formed this year. And that's really a team of 11 people, again, all volunteers, all across different parts of the industry with experiences. And they're really helping us form our thoughts on what members need, what other value can we provide to our member base, and also helping us recruit, getting more people out there to help people understand how they can get involved, how they can support us as an organization. And then we have the spec committee, this is where all the technical folks are, and they're really looking at our capabilities and the API and the standards themselves. So this is the one that's super technical and talking about those specific items. The others, though, like if you're thinking about getting involved or want to be a part of it, you don't have to be technical to be in the membership advisory board or even to be on the board of directors. That's much more about what are we doing and how can we move things forward. So I think there's some great ways to get involved. We do have a Slack channel that we all talk to each other on. So there's a great support system too. If you're a company that's implementing OCTO for the first time, it's a great place to get help from your peers and other members. And at this point, we are a little over 80 members, and we have more than 200 implementations. So just to be clear, the standard is open. So anybody can implement it. You don't have to be a member, but the membership is really showing us your support and helping us be able to make things even better and improve documentation, things like that, so that we can really continue to push this and get more and more adoption of OCTO.
That's great. And I think it's great that you touch on the way that you don't need to be super technical to be involved. Because I know for myself, I'm not incredibly technical, but I'm really interested in the industry and how everybody's collaborating. So it's nice when we talk about how OCTO is valuable to operators and providers as well as the tech space. There's space for their voices to be heard regardless of how they're doing it. So since we're talking about members and contributors, Dom, I know that you were one of the first ones. I know Ventrata's been there from the very start. So can you share a little bit with us about Ventrata's participation with OCTO, where we stand right now, how the involvement's looking today, and how it's all been?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even as I mentioned kind of in my introduction, right, like Ventrata is very active in the OCTO initiative, and that for me that was the reason why I really wanted to join the team. How that looks sort of in real life, yeah, there's various ways how we get involved. So well, first, like Ventrata is one of the founding members, right? So in that kind of very first meeting when OCTO was kind of whiteboarded in the Expedia offices back then, Ollie, our CEO and founder, he was in that room as well. So we were indeed there from the early days. And when it comes sort of to our participation now, I think I'm really proud to say that on our team we do allow kind of each and every team member, whether you're an engineer or connectivity specialist, to spend sort of % of your time kind of to OCTO projects, right? Whether that's the member hub that Robin mentioned, whether that's documentation or development of new capabilities. It is benefiting the industry overall, but it does also help us kind of deliver better connectivity for our clients along the way. So we are, super happy to take part. And I guess there's we also have formal participation on the project. So I'm the one sitting on the boards right now. On our behalf, we do have Ollie and Andre who take part in the specification committee. So that's a technical group that we just chatted about. And we do take part in various working groups, promotions, which just discussed in the specification call just before this webinar. So we're taking part in that as well. So we do try to invest kind of engineering hours, the product feedback, kind of the dev resources, tooling, whatever we can to kind of help the project grow and move forward quicker, even if some cases it doesn't kind of directly maybe benefit us now in the short term. We do believe that in the long run, it is good for us and for Ventrata users as well.
Yeah, so you've seen some of the benefits already that partners have gained from being a part of OCTO, and from that, can you share a little bit of what you've seen, like how our team has benefited from it, as well as how you've seen our partners benefit from that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not a secret. Ventrata's APIs are all OCTO-based, sort of out of the box. We actually don't have any proprietary APIs at all. I guess in a way that's kind of where COVID benefited Ventrata. We did build our APIs from the start on OCTO, and that not only goes to kind of your classic connectivity scenario of connecting like REST tech, like Ventrata, to the reseller systems, right? OTAs, marketplaces, anyone else on the distribution side. But even like web checkout, right? The kind of the web interface of, where clients book directly with you if you're a Ventrata user, even that today is powered by OCTO, and we're looking into other ways so we can reuse the spec already. We do believe there is even a space where OCTO API can power our hardware, right? The terminals, right? The point of sale, the kiosks, and all of that. So yeah, I think we recently looked at something like 50 or 60% of transactions that overall goes through Ventrata, through our clients' accounts, they actually leverage OCTO standards in one way or another. So it's huge. And I think in terms of like the benefits, right, I think it's all about standardization, right? Like for us, kind of on the dev team, like we wouldn't have been able to offer as many integrations to Ventrata users if this was not for OCTO, right? Because if every integration was custom, it's just not feasible to build that many of them. We would be just kind of burning through dev resources, building, customizing all of them, which is one thing. And it is possible probably maybe to build them, but I think that the biggest other problem is maintenance, right? So is probably all of us on this call know, right? It's one thing building something, another thing is kind of upkeeping it over time. And that's, I think, where we see the biggest impact of OCTO on us, right? So if there is an issue, let's say that we need to fix, it's typically just on OCTO API that one fix that fixes it for all partners. It's not something that we need to make trade-offs and prioritize and decide, hey, do we fix this for the custom integration with OTA A versus the custom integration with OTA B? It's all standardized by OCTO, which kind of allows us to deliver better quality of connectivity for our users, which in turn translates into bookings, into revenue for our users here. So I think it's very much that, very kind of straightforward. It's standardization helps.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think everyone's working towards a sort of similar goal, and fixes that are done are going to benefit everybody. So people are inclined to kind of get involved and work towards progress with that. So I think, it speaks for itself. If we're all speaking the same language, how far we can get. So, I do think we are pretty involved. And when we're talking about participation between board and, being active users, I think that it's important to also maintain a balance. Robin, I'd love to ask you a little bit about how you ensure that balance is maintained throughout all of the members. So making sure that smaller voices and newer voices are heard and as involved as someone like Ventrata or Magpie, who have been there from the beginning and, have really strong presences.
Yeah, absolutely. The spec committee especially is very open and transparent. We just finished meeting for this month just a few minutes ago. We had, I think, 4 new members join. So we're always open to more members joining. I think one of the cool things when I'm in those meetings, like sometimes I have to look up their name to see who they're with, because it's not about any one company. Nobody's ever mentioning, oh, this is, what we're up to. And it's nothing specific about a company. It's everybody coming together, talking about these scenarios and what works best. What is one experience over the other? And so there's a lot of collaboration, and I'm really, I'm proud to see that, it is, I think some people do think like, oh, it's all Ventrata deciding a lot of this stuff. And it's not. Everybody can have a part in this. Everybody is part of the discussion. And we've seen, I think, a lot of growth in the participants here in the last several months, which I'm really excited about. Martin Harlow from PrioTicket is actually the head of the spec committee. We've got Peak Pro is in there. Civitatis joined today for the first time. Rome Trip, Boken, the list goes on. There's a lot of people actively being part of the spec committee and, on the other committees and things like that too.
Great, thank you. And Christian, as you are in a unique position where you're both president of the board and an operator yourself, I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you see that balance and how you make sure that operators' voices are heard alongside with the tech platforms and, keeping that spirit of collaboration that it seems we're kind of seeing throughout.
Yeah, it's definitely been a theme, right? That is OCTO just Ventrata. That's the way some people talk about it. I actually think that's really unfair, and I think Ventrata as a company had the foresight to see this is coming. And if we're going to have standards now or in the future, let's rip everything up, get straight onto it, and run 100 miles an hour in the right direction. I think that's what Ventrata's done. So I think, to be fair to Ventrata, they've done everything that you probably should do. If I was any res tech in the industry, I think if you're looking back, you should have adopted this on day one and just run as fast as you can. And it's always been very open. The board seats the elections come every 2 years, and it's open for all members to vote. Maybe it's a bit intimidating for somebody to come on for the first time, especially if they're not technical. I am not very technical, really. I do join spec committee calls, and I've been quite involved, especially in the content stuff. So it's great to have the non-technical voices, and suppliers have probably been the least vocal of the members. I think probably most suppliers think that their res tech has their back, the res tech has all their needs covered, which is fair as well. I think if you're a Ventrata or Peak or any res tech, you are representing your supplier customers. So you should be taking on their needs and desires for this stuff. But it is nice to have some direct suppliers involved as well. Otherwise, there's a tendency for the developers and the tech folks to kind of run away with it and get too much into the details without thinking about how stuff works in practice. Good example being, we finished today the pickups capability, which is now how we pick people up from home. So that's a very practical thing, right? It's a thing that a lot of suppliers spend a lot of time on, just picking up humans from outside of hotels and on the corner and in the lobby, and they get lost and they call 10 times and it's a mess. So we've now got a capability to solve a very practical problem. And we had people helping that have done pickups. For me, I spent half my life on spreadsheets organizing driver pickups, and it's a mess. So having people that have done these things in practice is really great. Next thing we're working on is promotions. We're going to start that now. Promotions is the thing, again, you go to an IPW or a trade show, and it's me as a supplier talking to a reseller, and we're talking about giving you 10% off if you book in June and 50% off for kids in July. All these things are promotions, and they're real case examples of what we're trying to make easier on the back end. Because we talk about these things in trade shows, and then somebody's got to implement them through the booking process and the billing process. So it's very practical things that we're solving, but it does require a bit of technical expertise behind the scenes to make it all work. So very open to anybody. If anybody on this call, any of Ventrata's customers, anybody else wants to participate, just reach out and we'll find a place for you to help.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it speaks really to the importance of having the technical side and the operational side, the people that are really on the ground running, like the operators that are in front of guests every day, and what are the issues that they need resolved, and finding ways that together we can find solutions for those problems. Christian, I'd like to stick with you for another second and kind of get a little bit of, background into what made you want to step into this leadership position with OCTO, and what have been some of your priorities in this role.
Yeah, I mean, I always think this in general in this industry, and I've been in this industry my whole career, there's too many people doing the same thing over and over and not focused enough on the customer and on the experience. My background is in tours, and I always think that what I love about doing tours is showing people San Francisco or Yosemite or something like that. And for a lot of people, it's the best day of their vacation and maybe the best vacation of their lives. So that's ultimately what it all comes down to. But we spend so long on admin, right? We spend so long on connectivity and taking bookings, and it used to be faxes and writing down stuff. And so much of the industry is focused on that piece of it. And it'd be great to get 50% of that and put it towards the customer experience, or maybe suppliers could make a bit more profit out of it. So to me, it's always based on that, and it's getting rid of the admin to focus on the operation and the experience. And this is stuff which is really solvable, and it's not actually that hard. It does get tricky and technical, but it just requires cooperation between people. to decide that this is a better way to do this. The same as a language or a currency or any of these things. Once you got the cooperation, it just makes everybody's life easier. So I think for me, it was just an easy step, an obvious and easy step that the industry should take. And that's what gives me pleasure, moving the industry forward. I think it's an industry that we all love.
Yeah, I think it is an industry we all love. And for a lot of us who have, what we get passion of is creating experiences. So being able to find ways to really move that forward with partnerships that can do a couple things that we maybe don't know how to do, but really are going to benefit, creating memories for guests and growing our business is really great. I would like to kind of get an idea of what OCTO is going to be having happen in the future. I know you guys are cooking up some great stuff. We've mentioned a couple of things throughout the conversation. So Robin, can you tell us what we have to look forward to?
Yeah, for sure. So on the technical side, as we mentioned, we have the pickups and drop-off capability that we're just rolling out. Promotions is up next. We're looking for people to help us find that. We've just recently done the notifications and content capabilities, but most importantly, we're really looking to membership and everybody really to tell us what capability we need to work on next and what else is out there that people are really looking for and wanting us to tackle next. So would love some feedback on that from everybody. We also have a self-certification tool. So some of the feedback that we heard actually when we all got together in Valencia at Arrival was that it's frustrating that sometimes people are saying that they're OCTO compliant, but then you get in there and it's not exact. And so we heard that feedback from the membership base that was there. And we spent the summer actually creating a capability to certify somebody. So if you go to certify.octo.travel, you can actually certify your implementation of OCTO, and it actually shows that you've passed certification. And it's a really great way, I think, for it, if you're somebody new, like let's say you're a new OTA, you might want to go first to this list and look at, well, who is certified that I know these are going to be bang, 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 quick implementations. So it's a really great way, I think, to go beyond just kind of our honestly, like managed, list of people that say that they're using OCTO. So we're really excited about that. We've also implemented a member hub. And what this really does is gives us the ability to have member exclusive content. So one of the things that we're doing in the membership advisory board right now is trying to figure out, what do we want to provide to the membership? What's that extra thing that we can give them that really makes it value up for them? So is that, the contact information for everybody that's already implemented OCTO, so that you have a place to go and see, oh, okay, this is the right person to contact at each of the locations. So that's another thing that we're really excited about. And we're, actively looking at funding some enhancements to our documentation. Everything isn't free. So we're really trying to get more members to improve and increase the budget so that we can spend more on documentation and just making it that much easier for everybody to adopt OCTO and get out of the gate with it really fast and easy.
Actually, want to kind of jump in here on the documentation bit, because this is a project I'm personally very, very excited about. Because actually, what OCTO is our documentation. That's where specification lives, right? What OCTO as an organization, as a project defines, this is docs.octo.travel. That's the API, schema of requests and responses, right? The endpoints, all of that's documented there. So that the spec is what OCTO is building, and I think this is also the feedback we've been hearing, right? It needs some improvement. We need to make sure it's the best one out there. We need to make sure that for developers, for product people, or maybe even non-technical people trying to understand what OCTO is, the docs are super clear. So we are actually, there was also discussed in the call just before this in the spec committee, we are forming a documentation working group, right? So a group of folks who are keen to volunteer their time, helping us, improve the documentation, helping us clarify things that maybe need some more work in documentation. Also, as we build these new capabilities, right? Sometimes, especially tech teams like specification committees, we just move so quickly. We have so many assumptions that everybody understands, what is a polygon in the pickups capabilities, right? What is an area and what that is, and how do we? I think like documenting that clear to different types of users we have around OCTO is important. So I'm really excited for that project, which we're kicking off now. And if there's anyone on this call who wants to get involved, I think that's a great opportunity to kind of join one of those working groups and help us make docs the best ones out there.
That was actually gonna lead me to my next question, which was for these working groups. So anyone who joins, they can kind of jump in and get involved and have their voice be a part of the growth of OCTO. Yeah, there's so anyone can just kind of get involved with this if they have the knowledge.
Correct. Yeah. Or Christian, like, do you wanna answer that on a working group? So what's the procedure to join those?
Yeah, with or without knowledge. I mean, obviously, there's a reason you want to get involved, but the working groups are to take on specific tasks, specific capabilities. So the next one, like I said, is promotions. We don't know what the next one after that is. So things like seat maps, should we implement seat maps? Mm-hmm. But it could be anything, right? So there's no silly question when it comes to should this be an OCTO thing. So maybe there's some operational aspects to the business that you spend too much of your time on. You could bring it to OCTO. You could say, I'd like to recommend that we take on something, I don't know, driver schedules is probably a silly one, but there's something like that, and bring it to the group, and we'll have a discussion around it and see if it's for the benefit of the industry. So there's no silly questions. There might be some ideas that we don't decide to take on, but it's just things to make the industry better, things to make the industry more efficient. So if you bring an idea to the spec committee and we decide it is a specification we'd like to take on, we'll form a working group. We'll gather a few people who have got knowledge or interest in that specific aspect, and then we'll spend a few weeks or months or maybe even longer creating that specification for that specific capability. Think something like a seat map might be a good idea, right? Should we take on seat maps to broaden this industry into events and sports and that kind of thing? Undecided, but if there's interest, then we'll look at it.
I think that's great. I think it's really nice to hear, you mentioned that you want to hear what everybody is thinking about and what they're thinking is going to be important for their industry, and that there is no stupid questions, because we really want to encourage people to get involved and share what they think. We do have a quick question since we're talking about the documentations. So Ben Meyer, LinkedIn, has asked. He said, "Hey, thanks for the background. I'd love to know a little bit more about the docs part. We're looking to adopt the protocol as I saw it was open source." So I think Dominic, maybe you can share a little bit more about that. Answer that for us.
Yeah, of course. So like the last part of the question there is. The spec itself is open source. So if you'd like to use it in your system, it's open source, it's free to use. You're welcome to just use the documentation, implement it yourself. That's kind of the whole idea behind the project. And but we do encourage everyone to become a member, right? Because you can not only use it, but also shape, where the future capabilities go, and be more involved in these different working groups, and kind of just participate more in the development of spec itself rather than just implementing it as is yourself. In terms of the docs part, I mean, the documentation is out there. It's not something we're not developing anything brand new from scratch, but we do realize that the quality of the docs we have, the tooling that powers those docs, does need some improvement. I mean, up to a point. We're using a kind of free plan on the platform that powers our docs, that limits us in terms of the contributions, for example, from various specification committee members to even edits to that. So we are hoping to change that, to improve that. How exactly that will be done, it's still to be determined. So you can join as a member and join that working group. and help us shape that. But yeah, to use the spec itself, it is indeed open source. So you don't have to be a member, don't have to pay anyone anything or do anything to use it. You can just use it on an open source basis.
I do think that, another great reason to join if you're getting started with the Octo specs is our Slack community. We have a great engagement in Slack. So, I see people ask questions and, 6 or 7 people jump on answers, and, people that have been through multiple implementations at this point. And so it's a great place to have your questions answered really quickly and have more conversation with people that have been through it and have a lot of detail and are really willing to share. I think that's a really cool part of Octo is how willing everybody is to help out.
And to add to that, since probably a good part of this audience today are folks who are maybe using Ventrata or maybe considering, or maybe some of our partners, actually also want to use an opportunity to say thank you to a lot of the Ventrata clients who already are members. I think there's quite a few of them. I've prepared this quick slide with some of the names. So these are our users who also actively participate in the Octo project. Through their membership, and some of them even go beyond than just being kind of regular supplier member, like Pursuit the Collection. They recently joined us as a technology member because they wanted to contribute more, right? Or some of the folks on this list have maybe served on the board before or taken part in different working groups. So yeah, first of all, thank you for your participation, right? Not just going to take it for granted that Ventrata is an Octo member and we get all the benefits from that, but also if you have ability to be a member, ability to contribute to the project, please do so. Join forces with us in supporting Octo.
Great. So we are going to start wrapping up now. Would love to just ask a quick last word from each of you. Anything that you'd like to say about, if you have somebody out there, an operator or a supplier that is maybe on the fence about joining Octo, maybe their system already supports it, but they don't know whether it's, worth actually becoming a member. Any kind of last note that you'd like to give before we jump into a Q&A, or, if there's any open groups that are going to be welcoming new members soon that they can get involved. So, just Robin, if you'd like to start with any sort of final words.
Sure, love to. Yeah, thanks. I think give it a try, and I really encourage, whether you're a supplier or technology, join us and see how it can help your business. You don't have to, it's not a time commitment either. Just supporting the cause and helping us financially kind of move things forward is really important too. So don't feel this burden that now you have to join a committee and all that stuff. We're happy if you just join and really help support the mission. And I also really want to just take the opportunity to thank you guys and thank Ventrata for hosting. I'd love to challenge other ResTech systems and other members to give us this opportunity to talk more about Octo in an environment like this. It's great to be able to help people understand what Octo is and how they can get more involved and why it's so important to support us. So thank you.
Great. Christian, anything you'd like to say to anybody that's on the fence?
Yeah, I'd say the same. Reach out. Yeah, thanks to Ventrata for pushing this forward and for having a session like this. We're open to anybody else. We're all very approachable. We're all quite nice. Robin might be the nicest, so reach out to Robin if you've got questions. But there are no silly questions. You might come with some idea that you think could be Octo and could not. Reach out and have a chat. And then if there's a place for you to get involved, there's always a place for you to come in. So it is, I think, intimidating for a lot of folks that are not technical, which is most people in the industry. But this isn't a group where there's going to be exclusions, or there's some calls you wouldn't want to be involved in. They're not interesting, like the one we had just before this. But there's plenty of places where you can do things which is open to anybody in the industry. So please reach out, LinkedIn, email us. Any one of us are here to help.
I mean, that's great. I think that that's something that we really heard throughout, and I think that it's a really great point to leave on is that Octo is really about welcoming members and wanting to collaborate and having everybody be heard and create something that unifies the industry together. So I thank you all for, sort of spearheading that effort for all of us that are in the industry. So with that said, if there are any questions that anybody that's watching would like to ask, we have some time now for Q&A. So feel free to post that on LinkedIn or StreamYard, wherever you're watching, and we will answer as many as possible if we have some. As we've said, throughout, we really want this to be, we really like Octo to be collaborative. So we'd love to hear any thoughts, questions.
Let me just add one more comment on that while we wait to see any questions. There is also a debate on what is the industry, right? We used to call ourselves tours and activities. Now it's experiences, which is probably broader, but there is no set definition. So there might be people here working for a trampoline park or something. There's all these local events as well. No reason that can't be part of experiences. Is an event an experience? Is a concert, a sporting event part of an experience? It's not really built for that today, but it could be. So we're also willing to broaden this to a wider experiences sort of network within reason, right? So if we don't want to take on things that are so outside of the scope, but we're very willing to look broader. There is this weird thing in experiences where there's events over here, and then there's like regular experiences here. So there's the Viator stuff and the events, and they don't really cross very much. But that's not a line that we're drawing at Octo. We'll do whatever makes sense.
I think we've seen the benefits of crossing those lines and collaborating, right, with just even Octo as it started. So I think that's a really great thing to touch on. Well, I think if nobody has any questions, I want to thank you guys all for taking the time and for being leaders in the connectivity space. And I think your insight today has been really helpful for me. I hope it's been really helpful for everybody else. And a reminder that we are looking for everybody's voice to be heard in this. So, join Octo. You don't have to have a huge commitment, like Steve said. We just want to have members and collaborate. And if you'd like to learn more about Octo or explore its documentation or become a member, visit octo.travel. If you want to learn a little bit more about Ventrata, ventrata.com, and we can schedule a time with the team. And thank you so much for joining, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much, Robin, Christian, and Dominic. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to join us. Oh, we have another question. Thank you, Ben. Have you had any thoughts on on adapting for AI models?
I'm sure Christian wants to take this question.
It's been brought up a lot recently in the last couple of months, especially mainly around MCP. I'm not sure if it's time yet. I think it's time to start discussing it. I'm not sure if MCP is quite stable enough. I think we'd be releasing something.
Will you tell us what MCP is for those that don't know?
Yeah, model. It's not interesting. Model context protocol it's not going to help. It's kind of the standard for an LLM, right? It's the way LLMs talk to other LLMs. There's also A to A, which is agent to agent. There's all these different protocols which have been discussed. None of them are decided. There's movement towards MCP, but I think if we release something now and said this is the MCP of the industry, I think it would be too early, and it might change next month or next week or tomorrow morning. So I think we should be having these discussions, and then once we get closer to something being more of a standard, I think we should jump on it really quickly. And this is not just Octo. There's big companies. There's huge OTAs that are also undecided on the direction of this. Google doesn't know what the standard's going to be going forwards, right? So we need to kind of wait a little bit. But anybody who wants to talk about this and discuss which sort of direction we should be moving in, it could be a discussion ongoing until we're ready to sort of put a stamp on something, is my feeling. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion on that, obviously, as well.
Yeah, great. And I think AI is one where it's really important to be having these conversations, and everyone does have an opinion about it. So what an important thing to be a part of, to make sure that you are getting heard with that. Would love to, if there's anyone else, we are still here and happy to answer some questions. I know that sometimes things pop up a little bit later, so just want to give a couple more minutes, see if anyone feels emboldened to share their thoughts. Great. We've received a comment from Ben. We think we would all love to chat more with you about this as well. I think that, I think you'd be a great member of OCTO.
I think we have a new member.
I think we have a new member that would be very valuable.
Great.
So a comment here that says you can have a MCP and then improve on it.
It's definitely possible. The difficulty is with these standards, right? Is it's quite difficult. Once you approve a capability, or definitely with the core, there is an expectation that it doesn't change very often. We could maybe change the rules on an MCP and say, listen, we're releasing this, but it's a moving target. And I think as long as the expectations were there with the industry that it's a moving target, and we kind of reserve the right to change this tomorrow morning if something changes, then maybe we could look at this differently. With the core, like availability, booking, that kind of thing, you can change it, but it's a bit more constitutional. You can change it maybe every 6 months or a year. You can't keep moving it, because as soon as you change anything in the spec, every company that's adopted the spec has to do something. Could be minor, could be major. But it's possible with MCP that we do make it a moving target, because it is kind of a unique angle.
Great. We have one more. We have another question. Thank you guys all so much for contributing these questions. We really value them. We have a question that says, you mentioned earlier that you are working on pickups and drop-offs. What will this change? Is there something that is time-consuming to update on OTAs?
Yeah, I can take that question. I think the reality with pickups and drop-offs actually is that there is actually no standard today whatsoever around these. I know, Michelle, you're using Ventrata, so you would know how this works today, right? If you want to have pickups working correctly with most OTAs, the reality is that you have to maintain your pickup lists, your area lists, let's say on Viator or Get Your Guide, identical 100% to Ventrata, right? And then we do all of this kind of magic to map, when the customer booking to the right pickup spot. But it does require a lot of manual work, right? Especially if you're launching a new product and maybe you have 100 pickup points, right? That you need to map out, and now you have to do this manually for each and every OTA. That's a challenge, and that's what the thing that pickups and drop-off capabilities will help us solve, right? Because once pickups and drop-offs is standardized, it makes it easier for Ventrata, for other REST techs to kind of push adoption across that industry and make it so that you don't need to manage that manually anymore on each platform separately, but it can be synced over API, just like your availability is, just like your pricing is now, right? Bookings and so on and so forth. And I think there's also like improvements and learnings that we had as we were developing this capability. Like the big one that I personally really liked in the project is we had this concept of pickup areas as well, right? Because everybody is kind of talking about these like pickup lists of the hotels. But I think also, like, what if you're staying in Airbnb, right? Is that expectation now that as a supplier, as a tour operator, you have to list on the OTA every single possible Airbnb in your city? No, that's just not possible at all. But with some of the ideas like those pickup areas that we've taken into account for the standard, that can be solved, right? And for example, that's not possible today. For example, with Ventrata's custom developments that we've been doing there, or different hacks we do today with OTAs to make that work. So I think that's what's going to change, is that it will make it much easier for suppliers to manage pickups across OTAs as they kind of adopt that capability. Of course, it's also going to take time. And then drop-offs in general, like drop-offs is kind of, for example, for Ventrata's, it's a new thing. We never had drop-offs, right? But now that OCTO standardized that, we actually are within our product teams discussing how we kind of implement that in our product now that that's standardized. It's easier for us in this case to adopt. So that's also an opportunity. But yeah, it's all about automating otherwise manual work and doing that in an efficient way.
Amazing. And we're seeing live how an idea from somebody gets implemented into the bigger picture through this, with drop-offs that we weren't doing before, and then it gets put into OCTO, and so now we change that. Any more questions that we can answer? Any more comments that we can discuss?
we'll check the comments on LinkedIn. If any come in after this, I'm sure we can jump in on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, we can connect through that afterwards. All right, well, as mentioned before, this was recorded, so everyone that's been a registered user, we will be sending that link out afterwards so that you can, follow up on any of the information that's been shared if you want to repeat that or share that with your teams. And thank you so much for joining. If there's no other questions, thank you again, and we will see you again. See you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.